week's episode of Steve's Outdoor Adventures is brought to you by Cordova Coolers. A cooler adventure. Every year I try to host at least one hunt for veterans, and I work with Pepper Aylor with the Freedom Alliance. And a few years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting a character by the name of David Hagner on one of the cow elk hunts that we hosted on our ranch here in Oregon. My first impression, honestly, was that he was crazy. I mean, here's this guy standing in the main room of my lodge wearing nothing but a cowboy hat, a bathrobe, a pair of cowboy boots, and had a pistol on his hip. I knew right off we were going to be good friends.
So during my military career, I served 2 complete tours in Iraq, 4 complete tours in Afghanistan, 1 in the Horn of Africa, which includes Somalia, Yemen, Djibouti, Ethiopia, and then 1 tour where we were kind of a contingency operation. All totaled a little over 4 years on the ground, split between Iraq and Afghanistan, with probably 2 years conservatively in other areas of the world. So during my second tour in Afghanistan, the vehicle I was commanding was struck by an IED. I was the least wounded of them, unfortunately. Stepped out of the vehicle. We were in a gunfight. They called it a complex attack. Took a round. Later, evac to Walter Reed. And Walter Reed is where I actually ran into the Freedom Alliance when I was introduced to the program while I was there as a wounded warrior with the status of the Marine Corps Wounded Warrior Regiment.
You know, it was an honor for him to come out here, and he couldn't have been a nicer, funnier, down-to-earth. I mean, it was one of the funnest hunts I did all year. I tell you, I have so much respect for those guys and what they do for us and for our country to give us the freedoms that we have and that we all too often take for granted. And he's not looking for anything other than to come out and have a great time, and that's what we had. And I hope we have him back.
We just crossed into Utah. We're only about 2 hours from the lodge maximum. You know, the one thing I've noticed right off the bat is there's no snow, or just a little dusting here and there. Normally at the end of November, there'd be a lot of snow here. All the mountaintops would have a few feet on them. You know, that's what it takes to push these elk out of the higher elevations. We just don't have that right now. So we got in at dark, and the next morning, Dave and I hooked up with our guide Daniel Richens to head out and start hunting. There had been some fresh snow up high, but the valleys were still bare. So we headed into an area where the elk gather on the winter range. Just came through the gate and meeting the rancher and looking up here on the hill. There's quite a bunch of elk, about 60 head of them.
We'll see if that bull's one we want to go after. If not, we're going to go around the backside of Log Hollow.
We'll look for the other one.
There's a pile of them right there on the hill, though.
At
least we found an elk.
Let me have a look.
You want to have a look?
What are you seeing up there, Dave?
I think it's worth having a look at, but we're probably going to go on the backside.
Right there. Check that one out, Dave. They're right in that yellow grass. He's at least a 5. I don't know. We need to get closer. We'll be able to see these ones as they work their way up. We're gonna get right up by a lone pine right there, and they'll come right under us, and then we'll go around the backside of this hill. These will just go up and come down every day. They're not, as long as we don't mess with them, until we find one we want. That's the plan.
I've got a good feeling because we're already seeing a lot of elk. And I know that it's just a matter of time before Utah produces another great elk hunt. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by Burris Optics. Find what matters. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by CVA Muzzleloaders. It's just a better gun. We had spotted a bunch of elk that were working their way up the mountain to bed for the day, and we took the trucks and drove up above the elk and hiked out to a spot that Daniel likes to glass from. And it wasn't long before we had elk walking into view all around us.
Okay, there's a bunch of elk right here though in the trees. Just laying over there in the aspens. 250 yards from us. Yeah, it's right there. You can see where the elk have been coming up in the snow. Anyway, they just go up and they'll bed up on top. That's what we're up here waiting for. See if anything comes through. Unreal. Yeah. November, and they're still bugling.
While we glassed up a lot of cows, calves, and smaller bulls, we just didn't see anything that we really wanted. So we headed in for lunch and started working on a plan for an evening hunt. And sure enough, we found a bull bedded in the timber. We couldn't see any other elk, but we could see this bull. And we had a plan to move in and get a shot if a closer look revealed that he was big enough.
Because he's 200 yards. We gotta go 200 yards before we can see him again.
On this hunt, Dave is shooting my personal Bergara Premier Series rifle. It's chambered in .300 Winchester Magnum, and I topped it with the Burris Eliminator 3. It's a tack driver, and I'm confident in this rifle well beyond ranges that most hunters consider impossible. And with a marksman like Dave behind the gun, it's even more effective.
He's laying down so we can see his neck and his head. We're in brush where we can't get a shot. We're gonna slip around here and see if we can get laying prone so Dave can make a shot on him when he stands up.
Ranging him in the eliminator scope. We got a left to right crosswind. He's gonna have to use the windage tree. But this should be a fairly straightforward shot. The bull's bedded. He's gotta stand up first. Once he stands up, Dave's got the shot.
That's a tough shot.
We thought this bull was a little bigger. But once we closed the distance, got in here where we could get the spotting scope set up on him, zoomed up on him with the phone scope and the iPhone, we could tell on the spotting scope that he wasn't a 6x6. We were hoping he was maybe a bit bigger, but he wasn't. We looked at him real carefully. Super selective right now. Seeing a lot of elk, so there's no reason to be in a hurry. We're gonna let him go, let him grow. We'll hunt him next year.
Gift horse in the mouth. If this was my 100th elk, I could say, yeah, it's my third. Looked pretty damn good to me.
It had been a great first day, and as we drive back to the comforts of the lodge, the snow was starting to fall, and I knew that the next day, something good was gonna happen. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by Burris Optics. Find what matters. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by CVA Muzzleloaders. It's just a better gun. The next morning we woke up and quickly realized that a lot of new, fresh snow had fallen overnight. Now this is important because a lot of snow in the high country forces the elk out of the upper elevations and down into the lower elevations where we're hunting. And I knew right away that we were gonna find some elk, and it wasn't long before we were spotting bulls.
Third morning of the hunt, I'm riding shotgun with Daniel, and he's looking out the left side, I'm looking out the right side. He also covers my side because I'm mostly pointing out rocks. I see what I think appears to be an elk, and I'm looking at it for a few seconds because I've kind of cried wolf a few times, maybe 30 or 40 before this. So I finally looked at Daniel and said, how do those bulls look, pretty casually? And that's when the fun began. So brakes went on, doors went open, Chinese fire drill, I'm outside. Daniel's putting me in the prones, Steve's having me look at different areas, seeing other bulls that I had no idea were even there or bedded. Get them in the scope. We settle on one bull that we've been hunting since the first day. Myself and the guide, we're kind of located separately. I think I have a clear shot. We decide to take the shot. He turns, gives me a nice clean shot. I execute the shot. All right, you ready?
Yep. Okay, wait.
Dave's first shot hit the bull's center mass, and his follow-up shot was threaded through the thick oak brush and found its mark as well.
You can try
And we watched the bull as he went down in the thick cover of the hillside.
Five by 6.
Nice.
Good job,
What's up, brother?
Good job, man.
Good job, Dave.
The gun's on him. You gotta move it a few inches.
Hey, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good work, man.
What an animal, man. Like, just coming out at one after the other like that. I mean, we're only 300 yards away. Sure, there's some snow and some wind, but they're like freaking ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
Woo! We hiked down the hill and up the other side, and it didn't take long to find the downed bull.
Oh, yeah.
That's 6 by 6.
We got Steve. Thank you.
It had been a fast and furious morning of hunting, and we were celebrating Dave's success.
I'm not often at a loss for words, but this was incredible. This was something else. This was hunting at its finest. Hunting one animal. Put a plan together, and it came together with Daniel's help and Steve. It's just a phenomenal hunt. There's nothing like spot and stalk. Go to bed, hope he's still there in the morning, come back, he's moved. The difference in emotions, find him, hop out of the truck, fire drill. What a memory, fellas. Thank you.
When we come back from this commercial break, it's my turn to put on the blaze orange, grab the rifle, and start elk hunting. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by Bergara Rifles, a passion for precision, every barrel, every rifle. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by Cordova Coolers, a cooler adventure. If you'd like to book your own guided big game hunting adventure, give my office a call. I will personally take your calls, answer your questions, and help you book the hunting or fishing trip of a lifetime.
It's the last day of my hunt. Season closes today. We're gonna work our way around all the vantage points, glassing them all. Hopefully we can turn these bulls up. There's some elk that they saw in July, but haven't seen them since. This is the end of November. But this is when they show up.
We had a pretty good plan for the next morning. We drove around to the backside of the mountain, got up on top, and we started glassing. There were a lot of elk below us that were working their way up to the bedding areas, and it was just a matter of finding a good bull.
So we were getting ready to drive down off the mountain. I just happened to look back and glass this ridge, and boom, there's a bull, then there's another bull, and then we just saw two more after we got the spotting scope around. It's a zero weight.
This bull's across the canyon, and through the blowing snow, I can see that he's a big 5x5.
We find a bunch of bulls strung out down the ridge, and they're a long ways away. I break out the spot and scope, start picking them apart. We have bulls laying down. The best bull seems to be standing up looking right at us. Oak brush on both sides of him. I'm trying to make out what he is. I know he's got a good frame, he's a good looking bull. Next thing I know, Steve's on the ground, laying down prone. I pull my binos up, hit a range 798 yards.
This isn't an easy shot. It's almost 800 yards, but bullet drop is easy to compensate for. It's just simple math. But with a strong crosswind blowing left to right at about 25 miles an hour, I knew that I would have to use the windage tree in the scope's reticle. I got rock steady in the rifle and waited until I was 100% confident of where the bullet was going to hit, and I squeezed the trigger.
Oh, got him!
First one didn't go over.
Get back in there, Steve.
Get back in there.
Oh, he's up again?
Yeah, he's dragging.
The bullet hit a little bit further back than I wanted. The wind was blowing a little bit harder than I thought, and while the bull went down immediately, he wasn't quite dead. And nothing suffers on my watch, nothing. Now I had the windage, and I decided to put another bullet in the bull.
I mean, he made one of the best shots I've seen this year, and we take a lot of guys that are really good shooters, and Steve was confident when he laid down, and he was confident when he got up. It was awesome to watch.
He's so far away, we have to use the trucks to get to him. We can spend an hour walking over there, we can spend 15 minutes driving the trucks, and then we'll walk out to where he's at.
This is something that I practice for. I don't want to have to shoot 800 yards, but when I need to, because I practice and I have good equipment and I'm dedicated to the craft, I know that I can make that shot when I need to. And I would hope that anyone who's watching this show today understands that long-range shooting isn't just guessing. It's not just aiming somewhere above the animal and lobbing bullets across canyons. It's about practice and good equipment. And the animals deserve better than that. And as hunters, we need to demand that other hunters, if you're gonna take a long-range shot, be competent and be confident and know exactly where that bullet's gonna go.
798 yards away.
Wow.
Nice job, Steve.
Thanks, guys.
It's a hell of a day. November 30th. Today a legend was born 38 years ago. The presence of greatness.
The legend would be. Happy birthday, Dave.
Oh, thank you. I forgot, man. I totally forgot.
You're so like nonchalant.
The legend
Ah,
was born
yeah.
38 years
Subtlety,
ago.
right?
Well, I just remembered when he said that. I knew he was talking about himself.
Oh, look at that.
The Bergara Premier Series rifles, they're guaranteed sub-MOA. Well, that doesn't do you any good if you don't practice. The Burst Eliminator 3 laser scope, it'll give you the bullet drop and precise shooting out to 1,200 yards. But it doesn't do you any good if you don't practice or shoot good bullets. And we try to do all of that, spend a lot of time at the range perfecting the craft. So when we do get faced with a 6, 7, 8, 900 yard shot, we can take it and make it and not be guessing or wondering. This is a heck of a way to end a phenomenal hunting season. You're gonna have a lot of meat for the freezer, great set of antlers to remember the hunt by, and some memories that'll last, well, for many seasons to come. In fact, if you'd like to book this hunt for yourself, give my office a call. We'll take your calls, answer your questions, and help you book the hunting adventure of a lifetime. But until then, we've got to get this bull packed up, back to the trucks, and get it properly taken care of and take that long drive home.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week's show, but please remember to join us again next week for an exciting episode of Steve's Outdoor Adventures, and we leave you with this tribute to the troops who have served and are currently serving our great nation.
Oh, say,